Well, I want to say hi to all of our business leaders, men and women, our entrepreneurs, our senior management, our executives, and we're so glad you're watching right now. We are doing, I think, our first ever live Zoom broadcast, Facebook, whatever technology, YouTube. We use it all. We do it all. And obviously, this is a season with COVID-19. And I just want you to know, as the pastor of Wave Church, that we really do care for you. And we know these are challenging times. And I think there's certain things we can do to make them a little less challenging. And I think there's other things we might do that could make them even more challenging. I was just talking to one of our business leaders here, just literally 30 minutes ago on my way here to film this recording. And he was saying, the big thing he's trying to guard against is fear. And just not allow fear to drive his decision-making process. And I just said to him, hey, I just want to say to you, whenever you're making decisions motivated by fear, that you'll always make a poorer decision. And so I want as your pastor to surround you what I consider some great godly men who I have personal relationship, and I might just not add personal relationship, but personal friendship with each and every one of these gentlemen. And I just think they could actually really add some value to not just me wanting to just have a pastoral moment, a leadership moment with you, but also some good business wisdom. I love what Jesus said. The children of darkness in this generation are wiser than the children of light. It doesn't have to be that way. What he was saying was sometimes the church is so dumb they can't learn from the world. And the world's got some things to teach us that aren't ungodly. And sometimes the council is sitting right here in the kingdom. People like we're talking to right now. So let me introduce to you who I have on with us right now. We have Jim Mueller, who is a dear friend. He's been in Wave Church for many years. We have Ed Augustine, and we have Dr. Joe Monaco. And I'm going to ask them just for a moment, just to give you context, to know who these people are, to give some idea as to the platform on which they're speaking from, to offer some wisdom and advice. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you to lead off.
Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to speak with our leaders. My name is Jim Mueller. I'm the Northeast Zone Vice President for the JM&A Group. I work for a company called JM Family Enterprises. We have mostly automotive-related companies, a distributorship for Toyota. We have a captive lending arm, which is World Omni, and then our company, JM&A Group, is Jim Rand Associates. And it's we do business with new car franchise dealers. We have about 4,400 associates nationwide.
Wow. Okay, so that just want to give perspective. 4,400 associates nationwide.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Good to have you. Thank you for being with us today. Ed Augustine.
Sure. My name is Ed Augustine. I'm from the Tidewater area here. We own a company called Paramount Builders. It's a home remodeling company doing windows, siding, trim, roofing. We opened in 1991, so we're in our 29th year. We have 7 locations. We moved into Florida a couple of years ago. So we're in the construction business, the home remodeling business, do some financing, a lot of marketing, things like that. I think we have about 330 employees or people that call Paramount home.
That's awesome. Ed, it's so good to have you with us. And I've been seeing your commercials, by the way, and I think they're fantastic. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well as part of this discussion today, how to get creative, inventive when certain revenue sources dry up. And we're going to look forward to talking to you about that. And then the guy who I've known the longest, Dr. Joe Monaco, PhD in economics. He serves on our eldership. He serves in our building team, as does Ed Augustine. Joe, if you don't mind letting people know a little bit about you.
Hi, thanks, Steve. I have been advising people and corporations on their financing since I began at EF Hutton in 1981, so 39 years now. I was a branch manager for 2 Wall Street firms. I worked on Wall Street for 2 years. In 2003, I started my own firm, Monaco Capital Management, where today we advise over 800 clients in 9 countries around the world, managing a couple $100 million of investments. I have a bachelor's degree in business management, an MBA in finance, a PhD in economics, and I've taught finance, international marketing, and economics at, I think, 4 different universities.
That's amazing. Well, guys, thank you. I want to get into this straight away. I've got some great pastoral leadership insights that I think I'm just going to pull out as we go. So I just want to maybe just start with maybe Ed and Jim. How have you, sorry, let me ask the question correctly. Have you practically managed your internal world to lead your organization from a position of peace? So I guess the question is, how have you practically managed your internal world to lead your organization from a position of peace?
Ed, go ahead.
Well, years ago, when I first got into business, I was seeking wisdom, and I knew that was the most important thing I can do. And I began reading Proverbs, the 31 chapters, whatever day of the week I was looking for something to read. I would read Proverbs, and Solomon's writings just became embedded in me over a period of time. So now when a situation pops up, I feel like I've got that scripture right on the tip of my tongue. Having a good relationship with the Lord's really helped me to have peace, because there's a lot of people out there and we're all uncertain about tomorrow or the future or the next step that we're taking. And what I love is the fact that I know the end of the story and the end of the book, and kind of feel sorry for folks that are out there and really don't know that. As far as the peace is concerned, I'll break off and talk about work for just a second. We've always saved our money. We've always been very good with our finances. And you know, there's just a peace that comes with knowing it was going to be rough, but I kind of felt like no matter what, we were going to make it, because we put our money away, and we built our house on the financial rock as opposed to the sand. And I see people that couldn't go 2, 3, 4 days in payroll without having revenue coming in. They were that tight. And I just couldn't believe that had businesses for that long, and they just didn't put money away and save. So the peace comes from just knowing that I'm not going to have to lock the doors and let everybody go. So that's my answer there.
So what you're saying there is actually you actually have a cash flow reserve of surplus that you have kept aside in the, God forbid, the rainy day, because a lot of people think there aren't going to be rainy days, but Jesus said that the man who built his house upon the rock, he built it because he knew storms would come. And in other words, he could build his life to stand, and that's what gives you peace. Dr. Joe, what advice would you give to someone who didn't do that?
I think Jim was about to answer, so why don't we let Jim take that first?
Sure.
Well, well, I would agree with everything that Ed said. You know, this isn't really, those of you that are 25 or older, this isn't the first time that we've been through this, right? We've been 2001, 2009. So in those times, we learned a lot. We learned about how to run a lean business, how to make good financial decisions, not to make commitments to long-term contracts, that sort of thing. But I really think the short answer for me is it's really a combination of having the right attitude and a growth mindset. You know, in the situation that we have now where there's no playbook, right, it's not about just a downturn. It's about a health issue and a downturn. Now we don't have a playbook, so this is a perfect time to really unleash your creativity, your entrepreneurship, as well as unleashing those that maybe work for you. You know, in a world of guidelines and protocols and processes, really this has really energized teams and made them better for it. And I think the peace comes as a byproduct of focusing on the solution, not the problem.
That's good. That's very good.
Hey, Steve, if I could interject, I had a thought on that. If people are in that situation right now, I think that they need to be careful with making any financial moves at this time. I think they need to pause any of their spending, especially their extracurricular activities. I know an awful lot of CEOs who've frozen their salary right now. And if you're way behind, and you can always contact your vendors, your finance company, your credit card companies, and a lot of them are working with people through this time, and get good advice from people on the PPP program and the CARES program, because there's money out there to help. And if you're in a financial crunch, and the last thing I would want to say on that is be good with change, and don't be fearful of change, because a lot of great ideas are going to come out of this time. When it's forced upon you, don't fight it.
Well, I guess, Joe, I was thinking in relation to what you were saying, you and I have talked, and you said, hey, this is a good time for some people to consider reinventing themselves and not seeing this as a failure, but as a way to move forwards, because it's not as if we're dealing with this in isolation. The whole country's dealing with this, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't want to jump ahead of Jim there, but yeah, one of the things is it's very easy for people to try to hide and not deal with it. And this is the one time you don't want to hide. One of the big reasons is you'd be surprised how understanding other people are. Don't hide this if you're paying rent to a landlord that you can't pay it right now. If you can't make your payments to the bank, this is not the time to hide and hope that it will all work out. You'd be amazed how many people are willing to work with you on that. If you don't hit them up at the last second, go to the people who you're indebted to. Go to the people who you've signed contracts with them and let them know, the position you're in and how you're going to try to make it right. Especially those of you who have a history of making every payment on time, of being dependable. This is not the time to just hide and hope it'll work out. This is the time to, sort of grab it and go. People are much more understanding right now than they have been in the past.
So here's a question. What are the things that you've done in this season that you wished you did perhaps sooner?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll be honest. People always ask me, do you think a recession is coming? Do you think a recession is coming? And Steve and both, Jim and Ed know I've said this. The answer is absolutely. I just don't know exactly when it's coming. So the things that I did is much like what Ed said. You have to understand that these things are coming. A farmer doesn't fear winter. It comes every year. So be prepared for this. We will get through this. When we get through this, remember, something like this is going to happen again. It may not be this, but something will happen again. And just, don't let it surprise you.
Ed, can I ask you this, Ed? What are some business lessons emerging from this season? I know we talked about maybe a revenue source that looked like it was gone for you, but it ended up helping. Do you want to talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, there's a lot of different businesses out there, and they all operate different. They have different ways of generating revenue and their customers and things. Unfortunately for us, the way we generated our customers got shut down, and we're not able to go out and do the type of marketing and thing we would want that would bring our customers in. That means no work. That means no, I won't be buying products. I won't be building things. And that means a lot of people may get laid off. But we'd been marketing the same way for 29 years. There were a lot of people saying, oh, there's new ways, and there's SEOs, and there's internet marketing, and there's, social media, and on and on. And, I'm old school a little bit, and I kind of was maybe stuck in the mud on that. And, I just, I got some counsel for some folks that were like, when's the last time you've been on TV? I was like, I've been there, done that, tried it 15 years ago. And like, but right now everybody's home. I'm not saying doing it forever, just try something different, try something new. And we ran a commercial on TV on the 13th of April. And we were having a terrible month. Maybe we're headed for our worst month of the year. Today is the last day of April, and we had the biggest month in the history of our company. And 90% of the business that we did this month was off the last 2 weeks of the month off television. It literally saved us. It was unbelievable. And I had to stretch out of my comfort zone and do something I didn't want to do.
Yeah. And let me just speak to this. Go ahead.
I was going to add to that, Steve. I think regardless of what business you're in, I think there's a couple of things. First, I think having a fully functional digital platform that enables your customers to complete the buying process with you online is essential. A lot of people found themselves having incomplete websites where that couldn't happen, and they've really struggled over the last 60 days. Thinking about the new normal, what it's going to look like, reminds me of an old book that I read. It was called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." So although you may have had a good amount of success up until now, it's going to look differently in the future. You got to be prepared for that. The second is that there's a lot of efficiencies that's been created in the virtual environment. We've all learned that. Things that we felt that we had to do in person, we're actually realizing that we can actually do this pretty effectively virtually. So this means doing less things that are non-productive, like travel or pulling teams together for meeting. But because of COVID-19, more people are willing to use technology than they were ever before. Give you an example, Zoom had 10 million users 3 months ago. Now they've got over 200 million users. People in the car business, 73, this is a recent study just a week ago, 73% of car buyers are now comfortable with buying cars online. So I think there's some lessons to be learned there, what the future is going to look like.
And I would think that's absolutely major. And thank you, Jim. That's really good wisdom right there. I know a lot of churches were caught unprepared to do online services and were busy trying to play catch up. And I think in every world, I was going to maybe just say to what you were saying, Ed, the Bible actually talks about for Elijah, go to this brook and I'll take care of you. And then the Bible says the brook dried up. And in times in life, it's not that you failed. God led you to a brook that was a provision to you, but then the brook dried up. It's not that God lifted his hand off you, but God says, now you're to go somewhere else, and I've commanded another source of blessing and provision to come for you. But if you stayed at the brook that dried up, you'll die. And I actually think sometimes, some things dry up, and it's not like in and of itself a failure, but what is God now saying? What else is there out there for you in the future? So that's a big one for me, for people. Just get the shame off you, get the guilt off you. But having said that, learn some great principles of what did I do wrong? What would I do differently? Who's my war counsel? Before you go to war, you got to get wisdom. And people in the business world, in the marketplace, you're going to war every day in the business place, in the marketplace. So I just wanted to add that in there. Dr. Joe, what would be the best practical steps and considerations and strategies you would recommend any business should be taking right now to survive the current and expected ongoing challenges?
Yeah. One of the first things, it's actually one of the great opportunities you have. During times like this, people tend to not contact the people around them. This is a great time to be contacting your customers, potential customers, especially the people who are doing business with you. You'd be amazed at right now, they want to hear what's going on. They want to know that you're going to be there. They want to know how we're going to deal with this. And I think more than anything, people really want to be loved. I mean, everybody wants that. And I think letting people know that you really care about them is a step that you could take that won't cost you anything. Sometimes you can get lost in that, but today you're not. You'd be amazed at, because everybody is going digital, they've kind of forgotten how important it is for your customers and for your employees that you're there and let them know how much you care. It's a real major opportunity for everyone out there right now that won't cost you a penny.
Joe, one of the things I know about you is you're a really good pragmatic person, and I mean that as a compliment, but you're also a very optimistic person.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this question. How do you decisively address the current realities but still keep faith for the future?
Oh, yeah. I think it's a great idea to remind people of the realities we have been through. There's always this belief that whatever we're going through now is going to last forever. Just think of this century, what we've gone through. We had the dot-com crash. We had September 11th. Remember when gasoline went to over $4 a gallon and people said it was going to go to $5 or $10 a gallon? Now they're almost giving it away. The real estate market crashed. In 2011, remember that the U.S. government said they were going to go bankrupt. The Republicans said if the Democrats don't compromise, and the Democrats said if the Republicans don't compromise, we're going to go bankrupt. Both of them meant if they don't do what we want. That was their definition of compromise. But we got through that. We've gotten through World War II. We got through World War I. We got through Vietnam. We got through all these things. And people kind of forget that we've gotten through this, and, life goes on. My personal thing, when I'm telling people, because I invest a lot of money for people, is my strategy is to look at December of 2021 and beyond. I look at the rest of this year, and I'll be honest, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know what tomorrow's headline is going to be. I don't know any of that. But do you think that a year from now, people are going to still be buying products? The products they buy may be a little different. The way they do it may be different. Life is going on. It's been a bad bet historically to bet against America. I think it's going to be a bad bet that way too. Don't assume that we're going to be in this malaise forever. I think the best thing to do is remind people we've been through everything, this and worse, and we've gotten through it before.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe. Ed and Jim, let me ask you a question here. What are the key messages you're giving your staff right now at this time? What do you think your staff need to hear from you?
I just had this discussion with a large client of ours up in Baltimore, and we talked about what the messaging is going to be within their group and how we're going to help them with that messaging. But I can tell you with our associates, we tell them what we believe, and that is that the future looks amazing, that in the coming months that we're going to see a rebound for a couple reasons: pent-up demand, how that plays out, and how consumer confidence is restored in the true American way. Joe just talked about that. We're resilient. How we learned will change us forever. We just talked about that. It'll also make us better separating ourselves from the competition. It reminds me of a quote that you'll see in the wall behind me, but it says, Jim Rance said that the future belongs to those who prepare for it. And I think that that's an old saying that holds true today.
That's great.
Very good. At a time like this, I would tell any of my friends that are in business, I tell my top people that we just need to screw guilt. And the first rule of business is to stay in business. And we're going to stay in business, and we're going to put the war paint on, and we're going to get out there every single day, and it's going to be guerrilla warfare. And we're going to work hard. Nobody's going to outwork us. We're going to be creative. We're not going to take left turns all day. We're going to try some right-hand turns, veer off into some new exciting things. And, this is an opportunity. This is where Yellow Cab becomes Uber. This is where, people take businesses and do something completely different with them. This is where Ringling Brothers becomes Cirque du Soleil. Somebody's going to come up with some creative ideas and to take our industry. Right. I'm with Jim. We do home remodeling estimates. Nobody would even consider thinking a year ago that you could go literally sit at a computer and let someone watch YouTube videos and have a computer measure their roof or their house or their windows and do a DocuSign computer. And you never even visit face-to-face with them. It's happening everywhere. So I just say, open up the mind and let's learn some new stuff.
That's awesome. That's really good. How do you make the tough and hard decisions that impact your staff?
I'll go first. I think you got to remain calm when others are not, simply because you're the leader. Now, my employees are probably watching this going, sure. Easy to say, hard to do.
Yes.
Show your face every day. You can't be an absentee owner at a time like this and expect others to take the heat. It's easy to get emotionally connected and feel responsible, but you're still just a human being and you don't have all the answers. You got to go in there, just be an employee, be with your employees, watch your words and your actions in front of other people because, and be impeccable with your communication because they're taking their behavior clues from you. And I always said, my friend used to tell me it's okay to cry when no one's looking. But as a leader, when you're in front of everybody, you've got to set the stage. And another thing is you get to learn who your heroes are at work and who your heroes are not that you're working with every day during times like this.
Steve, if I could add to that, I, as much as I know Ed and Joe, their associates would walk through walls for them. All the stories I've heard and the goodness in their heart and the things that they've done. And I think that creates a real high level of trust that the associates have for their leaders like Ed and Joe and all the other good leaders out there. And I think at that point, they understand that there's a business decision that has to be made. It's not about the person. And so they have, there's a certain trust level and peace that they have that, hey, we're doing the best we can because we've demonstrated good leadership to them in the past and they know what's in our hearts. I think that helps.
That's good, Jim. I think we were talking about it in the building team meeting. Some people say, where's God in all this? And, for those who are of faith, and that's obviously primarily who we're talking to, but not necessarily all of our staff are believers. And I believe one of the greatest examples that we can give in our witness and our testimony is our godly leadership in these moments. And yet also making sure we're still in business tomorrow. I know all of you, and I know you're very kind. Joe, I know what you do for your employees in the moments where they have need. And it's all those deposits that you've given over the time previously that maybe there are times when there are withdrawals that need to be made. But so long as that deposit is in surplus, you don't send that into bankruptcy. And I think there are times when we're asking people to do things like never before. We're asking people to put themselves out. We're asking people to do more and get creative and inventive. And there are some times there are withdrawals. But if all you've ever done is make withdrawals, and today you make one more hard withdrawal, you could send that into bankruptcy. But if you've got sufficient deposits in there, there's a lot to be said for the equity of that relationship of your employee.
That's right.
Very good. Okay, so listen, here we go. I'm going to ask maybe Joe and Jim on this one. And by the way, these are questions we actually just felt like would be really good that we're hearing repeatedly, so we wanted to bring them out. There is a lot of talk about there being a big shift in the way global economies will work in the future. What are the biggest changes you consider businesses need to be aware of?
Well, Steve, I'll go ahead. So, none of us have a crystal ball. But rather than speculating, I think we create awareness around the hard trends and the soft trends to help us understand what that future might look like. I think that's the first thing that we can do. As a result of that, we're using this downtime to solve what the next 40 years looks like for us. So we formed recently, we're making best use of this time, so we recently chose 16 different areas of our company in our value proposition, and we put 16 teams to work to put together a plan based on those hard trends, soft trends, what that would look like. So we put this all on very short. They have a short leash to get the work done, and we believe that short timelines provide better results for us, so that we always make short timelines. But our goal is to start the first test pilots as early as June. So we're making good use of the time.
That's great. That's clever. Joe?
Yeah, I think that one of the major changes that has been occurring for the last 50 years, but really sort of went into overdrive, is governments have changed what their purpose is. Governments, for the most part, have felt that their job is to try to build infrastructure, build ways to increase business so they can increase the lifestyle of their residents, earn more taxes, things like that, help business out. Governments have been shifting from feeling like their job is to incentivize production to now they're incentivizing protection. And that's a real major shift that's occurred. So number one, governments are more and more looking to protect your customers and your employees than they ever have been. So I think you need to be aware of that change if it's not going to change. The second major change that has been occurring since the early 90s, and those of you who know me since then know that I've been screaming about this, that there's a bifurcation in what consumers want. And it used to be that people wanted reasonably good service at a reasonably good price. That no longer exists. I want you to think of Montgomery Ward, JCPenney, Sears. Those are companies that gave decent products at a decent price and they gave decent service. They're disappearing, or they have disappeared. People now want one of two things, and actually this is something that a trend that is getting more and more. They either want no service and the product as cheaply as you could possibly give it to them, which is why the internet is exploding, or they want premium service with a premium product. People will pay up for great service and they'll pay up for a great product. But if your business model has been, I'm going to give reasonable service at a reasonable price and a reasonably good product that should last a reasonable amount of time, you're going to turn into Sears and you're going to turn into Montgomery Ward. So I think you need to be aware of those trends. And I think what we just saw with the coronavirus, with the rush to the internet, people are going to want one of those two things more than ever.
I think that's really powerful, Joe. I really do. I think that's profound. Let me ask a question now, all of you guys. How important is mindset to navigating difficult seasons? Do you, and all three of you, have any habits or practices you exercise in this area to maintain a faith-filled mindset?
I don't know about a faith-filled mindset, but I find myself always really busy. And some people love going to the gym or going running. I hate doing all of that. I mean, I know I should. I hate it. So I have found myself that I've hired a personal trainer that I see 3 days a week so that I can work on my health, not because I necessarily need somebody to design a fitness regimen for me. Quite honestly, I need accountability. And I need to make sure that when I get really busy between business and my family and church and all the things that I got to do, that I'm taking care of me. And if I have to pay someone to make sure that I do that, then I will do that.
That's good. Ed?
Yeah, I find that I'm making a lot of decisions all day, and I get very uncomfortable if I have to make one and I don't feel like I'm ready to make it or I'm equipped to make it, and I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong one. So I try to, one, never make any kind of decisions if I'm feeling emotional. And number two is when it does come time to make that decision, I try to make sure that all emotion is out of it and value-driven is inside there. I try to let my decisions be value-driven as opposed to emotionally driven. It's not easy.
That's good. Jim?
Well, as I was thinking about this, the Bible says, why do you look at the speck? It's Matthew 7:3. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? And having a growth mindset, I think, will cause you to look inward versus outward, right? So it's a way to think in order to get better at anything. The opposite, if you have a fixed mindset, you don't see yourself as able to do some things. And in other words, we put limitations on ourselves. We believe that things are a certain way, and we just aren't open to any input with that. I'll give you an example. If you think that you're not good at math, you'll start believing that. Math is something that can be learned. So before you start trying to change others, be aware when you're in your own fixed mindset, so you can start proactively working on fixing those fixed mindsets. Just identify what the mindset is that you have, put it in a sentence, and put yet behind it. So if it's I'm not good in math yet, and then from there just put a strategy and a plan behind getting better. Put the focus on it, and you'll achieve it. So it's kind of my plan.
That's great. I know for me, with 8 campuses and Wave Collective churches, probably 100 of those around the world. I talk to 100 pastors now almost every week around the world, helping them navigate these seasons with, Wave Children's Learning Center, Wave Leadership College, Wave City Care, 8 campuses, 120 staff here. What I need to do is I just like Joe, I got a trainer. I've been working 4 days a week, 3 days a week. I just need to make sure I'm taking care of healthy body, healthy mind. And I want to go out and play golf and do things that will just allow me to, when I'm on, I can be happy, decisive, and I don't feel guilty getting away to come back and be better at what I do. I got to watch out for the time here. I want to make sure this is just not too long for everybody. Let me just say this. One of the things I got a phone call from one of our business leaders, and he rang me up, and Ed, we were talking about reinventing yourself. He just rang me and says, Pastor, I got this great business invention. And it really does sound like a good idea to me. And I hope and pray it's successful. And what I love is in the middle of this COVID, when everybody's battening down the hatches, this is a refreshment to me. He goes, I want to give 10% of all the revenue, or of all the profits at least, to Wave Church to help make sure we can keep building buildings, because the church is the hope of the world. I can't tell you how refreshing it is, like that someone in the middle of COVID-19 is thinking creatively like that. And but I just thought maybe just on a closing question here, because time is almost gone, I can't tell you what that does to me as a pastor, to think someone's thinking about the ongoing growth and expansion of the kingdom of God, understanding the power of local church, and not just think about how they're going to survive, but how they can see something that's entrepreneurial that can be a blessing to them and be a blessing to God's house. But that makes me ask this last question to all of you now, and that is this. What does a leadership support network look like for you, and why is this important to you? What does a leadership support network look like to you, and why is it important? I'm just going to throw it open as we close on that question.
Steve, I'll start. I guess our focus is on developing leadership capacity, and that's kind of what attracted me to JM Family to begin with about 24 years ago. This approach gives us kind of a common language that we can interact with, not only with each other, but with customers. And because our associates are our number one asset, we invest more money in associate development outside of IT than in any other areas. So we believe that every associate is a leader to some level. So we focus on two main areas of leadership. That is leading for results and also leading through our culture.
I love that. Boy, that's gold. All right, Joe, Ed.
Yeah, obviously seek wise counsel. My TV commercial that's doing so well for me, a friend in Minnesota gave that to me. A bank that shut down the other day and no one knew about it. And we were going to find out after we built a ton of jobs. One of my friends in Los Angeles told me about them and warned me. I stay involved in networks in my industry, and we share ideas all the time. And I'm just always feel like I'm on the cutting edge of everything that's going on in our industry. I think that's so important, but that's only the business side. I'm a small group leader, a connect group leader at Wave Church and a business group. And we have, some guys that are involved in that. We share ideas in couples. I'm on the building team here at the church. I'm pretty close with a lot of the people in the church. I've been attending church for 27 years. I got saved April 12, 1987, right on that location where Wave Church is at. So I don't miss church, and I'm just going to make this really clear. I make a lot of mistakes in life, and I just never miss church. I can't think of when I'm in town 10 times in my whole life. I get up on Sunday morning, I go, because I have to hear the word, and I need to know what God would want me to do. And I rely on the Bible, and the church is the final word. It's not even up for debate. And if it said it, that's just it. And I move forward that way. So I think when it says wise counsel, that means church, that means business, that means friends, it means my wife, it means all of that stuff all mixed into one. So
that's right.
Happy for my groups. I'd also like to say, and since it's our closing thought, that you know what, this is a tough time for people, and I would just encourage people to realize it can be a cool time, and that every one of us are going to come out of this and have like a PhD in crisis management.
Right.
And I think we need to just maybe keep journals and keep records and remind ourselves how we came through this one time, like we came through other things. And they give you, the next time something comes up, it really does build your strength and your faith to know that you made it through something like this. And just remember, one day you can sit around and tell your grandkids about how you made it through this COVID-19 year.
Oh, that's great. Joe.
Yeah, well, one thing that I don't know that you, Steve, realized, but in answer to your question, Jim, Ed, and I are all in the same home group or cell group. So I think it's important that you have people around you that you can share these things. One of the problems of being in leadership is you got to be careful who you share your problems with. You know, you can't really tell your competitors because they might use it against you. You can't talk to your boss about it because he'll think, well, you don't have control of the situation. You can't tell your employees about it because they'll think you're not in control. So it's really hard. And so you need to have a group around you. And by the way, if you're running a business right now and you don't have that, I tell you, you really need to get more involved in your church, whether it's Wave or whatever church you're going to. You need to be involved and develop those. You need to be around people who won't tell you, gee, it's just stupid that you put a door there. It's a big clog and people can't get through it. You need people to say, hey, you know, if you would put an extra door there, you would have an easier time getting people in and out. You know, you don't need people who tell you what the problems are. It'd be good if somebody spoke positively and let you know what you could do to solve the things. I know that both Jim and Ed have been wonderful guys for me to bounce problems off and ideas off. And, you know, you've said in a number of sermons that we as Christians feel like we have to have people hanging around us that draw us down. We don't. You need to be people that have people in your life that you're mentoring, but you need to have a good group around you who you can share with, who can tell you, you know, things to do. And I'm at Wave and I have all you guys in my life. But there are people, for those of you watching, there are people in your life, in your church, who you can do this, and don't shut them out now or later on.
Yeah,
that's right.
Proverbs 18:1. He who isolates himself seeks their own desire and rages against all wisdom. And there's social distancing, but there's not spiritual isolating. So I just want to say thank you. This has been 41 minutes already, and our time is up. But I just want to say we didn't answer everything. I know all of us will think about things we would have loved to have shared. But I didn't try and solve the world's problems in 41 minutes. I wanted to lean into you, to tell you we love you. We are caring for you. We care about you. And I just want to reach out. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Joe, for your time. And I just want to encourage you. If you need help, reach out to us. There is safety in the multitude of counsel. I know as a church, we are calling everybody in our church. And we're trying to get people to get connected to our online community groups. And I want to say, lean into God. God is your source. And we will pastor you and lead you and come beside you. You are kings, you are queens, you are warriors, you are God's daughters, you are God's son. You were born for this. The spirit of Esther is upon you. We were born for times like these. Amen. God bless you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. And I look forward to hearing some positive feedback on this live Facebook post. God bless you.